Good morning, everyone. Today is day 12 of hashtag 30 Days of Magic. Today, I want to share a little bit about the masculine energy. I'm going to start with a story. I don't know where this is going to go, so let's see what Spirit has to transmute on this topic this morning. A couple of weeks ago, I listened to a podcast, an interview with Jordan Peterson. And the question that he was asked was, are men necessary in today's society? I've been sitting with the response that he gave for a few weeks now. His response was, of course, men are necessary in society. Look at all of the work that men do to keep our society functioning. For example, they're down in the sewers, beneath the roads, building drainage and putting in pipes and hauling rocks and dirt and operating heavy machinery and up in the power lines, making sure electricity is working and fixing power cords. And sometimes they're doing all of this in harsh weather conditions, in rain and snow and sleet and cold, and getting up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. to get out to build roads, to build infrastructure, to make impossible things happen. Of course, men are needed in our society. They are the fabric of what is holding our society together to make sure that everything is working properly. They're doers. And listening to this podcast brought me back to being a little girl and where I grew up, a small island on the coast of Canada in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I grew up around men who hunted, who fished, who went to work at 2 a.m., at 3 a.m., who survived and worked in harsh weather conditions, feet and feet upon of snow, and shoveling families out of houses and getting up at 3 a.m. to light a fire in the house so it was warm when we woke up, cleaning fish, cleaning moose, hunting. And I grew up around women who supported men in these roles. But something shifted when society began to shift. Some shifts necessary, some shifts not, in terms of women's rights and women's empowerment and being treated more fairly in society. So of course changes were happening that were necessary, but a change that I think happened unnecessarily was that we lost appreciation for the role of hardworking, low-income, middle-class men in our society who are holding the fabric of our society together. And I've been on my own journey with this process of masculine feminine dynamic and interaction. And what I want to share is the experience that listening to this podcast with Jordan Peterson brought me back to. That feeling of being a little girl and having the utmost admiration for the men that I saw in our family and in our community who were out working in the cold, in harsh weather, to work various jobs just to make sure that there was food, that the bills were paid, that we had places to live. Um, and feeling conflicted about my natural desire to admire the role of men. And as society changed, women changed, and women's attitude changed, and then it was a conflicting story that I was witnessing. A confliction between my natural inclination of admiration and respect and this feeling of men weren't good enough and they weren't doing enough and they weren't able to show up in different ways that women were now asking them to show up, with emotional support and connection, and to be the best friend, to be the perfect father, to be the hard worker, to play a variety of different roles that maybe weren't so natural, in terms of how men and women are built differently. And so I went through this process of adopting this sort of dark feminine energy that we didn't really need men, that women's empowerment, the feminist movement meant that we could now work on our own, get our own places to live, have our own credit cards, have babies by ourselves, raise kids by ourselves. And I'm not saying that any of that is inherently wrong. Of course, we need to be able to show up if we don't have other people to count on. But that's not the natural desire of men or women. And so I feel inspired to share this since listening to this podcast and doing my own healing work with this dynamic of balance of masculine and feminine qualities and what is inherently natural to us, and bringing it back to this time of my personal life where women were the caretakers, they were the nurturers of the house and the home and the children, and taking what was given by the masculine and turning it into what was needed for survival. And there was a co-creative harmony in this natural sort of dynamic. And I'm not saying that women can't work and should be at home with children. And of course, if that's your choice and that's what you want to do, then great. But society has changed a lot, and a lot of the changes have been positive for sure, but a lot of them have had negative consequences on the family unit, on marriage partnerships, on relationship dynamics, and we're feeling the effects of these changes, both shadow and light. And I just want to encourage any men who are watching today with me that I see you. I see that it's not easy to be a man. I see that there's a lack of compassion in society for what your natural instincts are in terms of providing, in terms of creating and doing and making things happen and keeping our society at many levels just functioning and operating so that women and children can live and feel protected and valued and held. And I think that it's a really challenging time for men in our culture right now. And I never thought that I would say those words, but it's truly an awakening process for me as an awakening feminine energy to see the harmful effects that some of the changes in our society are having on men. And men need emotional support too. Men need to be appreciated and seen and valued for what their natural tendencies are. And women can do a better job of showing up and holding space, especially in the Western culture where we're having this war on the patriarchy right now. I think it's really important to understand the difference of the patriarchy as an ideological system, and definitely men and women who uphold the patriarchy. But the patriarchy does not equal masculine energy. A man does not represent, nor should they hold, the consequence of the shadow of the patriarchy. So all of these things with women ruling the world and taking over, and we don't need men, and men have been in power long enough, and all of this, I'm just really not resonating with this paradigm of thinking. Really just not resonating with it. It doesn't feel true in my body anymore. And no one is more surprised to hear me say that than myself. So to the men, I want to support you to continue to follow your own inner healing, because I know I've reached a point in my awakening as a feminine energy that I feel called to show love, to show support, to show appreciation for the work that men are doing, for how they are showing up. It's not easy for men to reach out and ask for support, to go to therapy, to read books on spirituality and awakening. Not all men, of course. Nothing that I'm saying is 100% for men or women. Take what resonates and leave the rest. But we need to create a container of support for men who do desire to learn and to grow and to be a safe space for women and children to thrive and be in their natural essence. And I want to share that today. I don't know what else I want to say about that to the women who are watching. You know, finding our own inner healing with our journey with that masculine energy is super important, and identifying our own toxic beliefs and patterns that have been inherited from a time and place that just doesn't bring healing to anybody. Um, it is also our responsibility to support and to appreciate what the masculine is doing for us, for our society, while still protecting ourselves from, you know, people who aren't doing their work. Of course, there are women who aren't doing work. Of course, there are men who aren't doing work. But if you are a woman who's doing your work, then part of your work right now is learning how to show up to support the masculine in doing their work. Because the truth is that we both need each other. And the feminine needs the masculine, and the masculine needs the feminine. We are both energies internally, as within, so without. So we cannot just cut off a part of ourselves, internally or externally. I think that we're beyond the point now as women of proving that we can do it all, proving that we can have it all. I know I'm beyond this idea that I need to show my value and worth by showing up and grinding and hustling and doing, you know, the work of a masculine energy, and more I feel inclined to be in my receptive natural state, which is to allow, um, to receive, and to embody pleasure and sensuality and joy and movement and nurturing and caretaking of my community and children and of men. And there's some really amazing men that I've been following. One of the things that I first did to change my perception, to embark on this healing journey within myself, was I started looking for men who were doing the work, men who are showing up, men who are trying, men who are reading the books and going to therapy and going to the men's circles and going to the men's groups. And I just started filling my accounts on social media, one of the positive ways we can use social media to learn and to educate ourselves. And I'm going to share with you a list in the comments of some of the accounts and people, some that I know personally, some that I don't know at all. I'm not affiliated with them or their work financially, so they're really just people that I have been learning from. I've been ordering their books, their courses, encouraging men in my life to take their retreats, the coaching programs, so on and so forth. And they've just added so much value to expand my perspective on the challenges that men face in our society today. So this is a longer video than normal. If you have stayed with me, male or female, throughout this talk, thank you so much for your presence. I don't even remember what I've just said, so hopefully something sticks out for you, something triggers a desire in you to move beyond what you think you know about men, about yourself as a woman or a man, and to be open to see things differently. Um, and I just want to encourage people that we can all make our choices in life about how we want to show up and how we want to live. But there is a strong call to honor what comes natural to us. And so if you identify as a female or a male, whichever energy is dominant within you, it's not related to your um, anatomy as male or female. So this is bigger than that. We're talking about energy within us. And so to listen and to honor what your natural dominant energy is, the ways in which you may have been blocking the expression of that, and finding ways to heal, to step more fully into your authentic self and into your power. So I think that's good for now. Hashtag 30 Days with Magic, day 11. Just consider it. Bye for now.